We're back, baby. It's the charity stripe. Well, I'm back.
You're back.
Welcome
Baby,
back.
thank
We've
you.
been
Yeah, I
here.
missed you guys, honestly. I like the...
Thanks for being honest.
Yeah, no, for real. We're back. Fisher, DeSopo, Snacks, Kreider, Daily Stripe. Good to see you guys. It is Tuesday, April 11th, 2023. Great weekend of sports. It was good. It was a lot of fun, exciting. Masters. The Adesanya fight was good.
That was good.
OBJ gets... We're going to get into all this, actually.
I think the Masters were a little underwhelming.
The Master. Okay, well, Nick, don't bleed your cards.
Why?
Just because it wasn't close. Kind of feel like you just ran when guys just run away with it. It's just like it's kind of boring.
It becomes golf again.
Yeah.
Well, I do think that maybe part of the reason you feel this way, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but also just dealing with the weather and how that delayed things and pushed day 3 into day 4, and then you had day 3 and day 4 all in one day.
Yeah. I'm with that.
That definitely shakes things up from a betting standpoint. I know we were all in a pool. Like, it's not the same rhythm that you're used to from the Masters standpoint. I knew a couple of guys that were there, and when you have to spend a lot of money on flights and tickets to go there, obviously you don't spend a lot of money on the pimento cheese sandwiches and the beers. That's the whole shtick of the Masters.
Great,
but when you don't get day in, day out of being there, that full experience, I can imagine how that is not quite what you're looking for on the same token. And a lot of people don't even go for all 4 days because it's too expensive. They'll go for like day 1, day 2, and day 2 and day 3 in the middle of play got completely shut down. So
you're getting shanked on day 3 and kind of in day 2 with the tree falling as well.
Yeah.
So rank them. Rank these 3 stories from the weekend. Rom winning the Masters, Odell to the Ravens, Adesanya knocking out Pereira in 287.
I feel like it's pretty easy.
Okay.
Adesanya number 1. John Rahm winning the Masters 2. Odell signing with the Ravens 3.
Okay.
I'm going to flip 1 and 2. I have the Masters at 1, Adesanya at 2, and then Odell way further down at 3.
Okay, good. So the Odell thing was nice, cute, good to see him back, happy he's here.
Didn't play anywhere yesterday or last year
Yeah.
Or yesterday.
He hasn't played in a few days. So no Odell. He's 3.
I mean, the biggest thing about that news-wise is the number, not like where he's going. I know that there's like the implication that
Still Odell. People love him, and he's always in the news.
I love Odell. It's just I think the biggest thing, the most eye-popping thing about that signing is that the number is way too high.
The rent is too damn high, and so is that contract. 18 mils with incentives.
Well, 15 guaranteed.
And then
It's just
15
crazy that the Ravens have been, I don't know if it's cheap, but they have not been willing to spend the money that Lamar wants them to spend on him, but they go out and pay top dollar for a guy who didn't even play last year with injury history, who is a veteran who has played many years.
Yeah.
So
Well, you guys think that it's
a recruiting tactic.
It's a move to try and get Lamar.
Well, Odell
In my
came out and
opinion.
said that his intention was to play with Odell next season. Like, they were hanging out together in Miami. Like, I'm sure Lamar says he wants to stay there, and he probably wants to get it done. But it's just weird that the Ravens are willing to spend a lot of money like that, which it can go to Lamar's contract.
And he's certainly like a larger-than-life type of NFL personality. He's an incredibly skilled wide receiver, was between injury 1 and injury 2. He was obviously before injury 1. We still have to see post-injury 2 if he can return to complete form. But I guess, in my opinion, like, or more so, I'll put this up to you guys. Like, is that enough if you're Lamar? Just Odell Beckham?
No, you probably have to make another move in the second round. You made your first round pick with Rashad Bateman. That, once again, hasn't panned out. The Hollywood Brown experiment hasn't panned out. Dobbins.
Is there a wide receiver on the draft board that, if you are Lamar Jackson, entices you enough to be like, yeah, I'm staying?
Smith and Jigba?
Okay.
There's a lot of good wide receivers in this draft.
Zay Flowers?
Of course. Not to say that there aren't. I'm more so just saying, like, if you're Lamar Jackson, like,
It's not about the weapons, in my opinion, at this point. It's about the money.
I guess, but then they just threw 15 and some to Odell, so I don't necessarily... You're right. They have been a bit frugal this entire courting period with Lamar Jackson, and now you're going to give that money. It's very uncharacteristic of the Ravens as well, who are typically a very sound organization, make very deliberate decisions. are extremely economical, manipulate their draft picks well, draft well, period, outside of the wide receiver position, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And he still has he's got Mark Andrews, so let's not poo-poo him. In my opinion, as far as receiving goes, it's still a top 3 tight end.
I guess the way that I look at it, it's they weren't able to come to a deal, right? He requested trade at the beginning of March.
Yep.
They're not willing to pay him what he wants, what he thinks that he's worth. So in some sort of compromise, like if I were him and just the way that it's played out makes me assume that like he needs good faith from them. It's not enough just to like, even if they were to give him what he wanted, like go above and beyond because prove to me that you actually want me here, or are you just like placating me and basically like this is turned into a bigger deal and so you just are doing whatever is necessary. And of course, yeah, you'll take me because I'm a top 7 QB in the NFL, but make me stay, make me want to be here. Like I can still, even if you do end up giving me the money, like this has been an absolute headache, of course, for you, but I don't care about you. I just care about me. So like prove to me that you're going to bring in the assets that are going to win me a Super Bowl.
See, the thing is like you kind of give him as a cookie type vibes with Odell. Like, here, come on back in. Here's your cookie, and like this is what you get, and we'll make you stay, and you'll take the contract we want and you want. We'll kind of meet in the middle a little bit. You think they need to do more?
If they want him to like be the leader in the locker room, to be their franchise guy, yeah.
Okay. I mean, the Bateman thing has not worked out. It's very unfortunate. They have their pick sitting at 22. I don't know if that's going to be enough to get Smith and Jigba, but that could be enough to get Zay Flowers. That could be enough of a slot to get Quentin Johnston, who we've seen up close and personal and I think has fallen a bit out of grace with a lot of just what we're seeing with mock drafts, with edge guys coming up, offensive lineman guys starting to pop up. Obviously, the guy that we'll tailor it into the quarterbacks, but I think the Odell thing is in that realm, and that's why I threw it in there, because obviously somebody regaining a title in the UFC after losing a shocking bout to Pereira in their last match is a massive deal. And his, I'll say, antics afterwards, whether you liked them, thought they were funny, or you thought they were a bit petty. And then obviously someone wins the green jacket for the first time. Jon Rahm cementing himself as the best golfer in the world, taking over Scotty Scheffler, jumping Rory McIlroy, who had a poor showing.
He withdrew.
And the green jacket slips through his fingers once again. I think
most watch major in the last 5 years.
I thought it was.
I think that's
important. I thought it was fun. I mean, look, it wasn't like last year. It wasn't like when DJ went for a record. It wasn't like Matsuyama kind of taking the world by storm. And in the rain delays, instead of like locking in, he's sitting in his car playing his Nintendo Switch, right? So it's like all these. It definitely had a different allure, but it was a long time coming for a golfer like Jon Rahm, and a guy that I've jokingly said is my favorite golfer, but a golfer that we've all really liked and been rooting for, and he's come close many a time, and so it was good to see him get over the finish line. But I throw Odell in there because I think it's something that's been so heavily discussed in the media for probably a year now at this point, since he last became available.
Yeah. Oh, I think it was a massive story. I mean, people were certainly talking about it, especially because at that point, the Masters were Rahm had pretty much locked it up.
Yeah.
The fight was the night before, and the just timing of the way things played out over the weekend for sure was very impactful. And again, like I'm talking about Lamar Jackson, you probably want more, but just from name only, you're pumped to be playing with Odell Beckham. Anyone is. That's a guy.
Too.
What?
They're friends too.
Yeah,
they're cool too. And then it's also
from
a fan base.
From a vibe standpoint, it's he's seems like he's awesome.
Odell, yeah, he's a great guy to have in the locker room. Look, the thing about Odell, let's not poo-poo this. He's got a ring. He's seen what it takes. He jumped aboard that team, played great for him, was awesome on the Rams. So it's a good guy for a team that's not been able to get over the hump in the playoffs in this iteration of the Ravens. It's a good guy to bring into the locker room. I think it's pretty exciting. Hello, Chris Dickerson. How are you? Fellas. What's up, man? Okay. Cool.
Well, can I just say that I also think wrapped into the Masters,
Yeah.
I know that Rahm wins the green jacket. He wins this major, but I do think other storylines were at play that made this a really exciting event, and one of them being just like the implications of down the road PGA versus Liv, and Liv had a fantastic showing. Mickelson at his age, 50 plus, being the runner up in this tournament, and this is unbelievable. If he was not a member of Liv and he was still a part of the PGA, that would be a storyline that is absolutely being talked about right now. The fact that he was in contention to win this Masters,
Came in second.
yeah, he was a runner up. Like
Who got third? Brooks, right?
and Brooks, right? Who
Live as well. And then
yeah,
Patrick Reed.
and Patrick Reed was right in the mix as well. And then you had Sam Bennett, the amateur, who had a fantastic showing. And then the day after, goes and plays at the Aggie Invitational, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Straight from one golf tournament, the most important golf tournament of all time,
to the least
to another
important.
one. Yeah, to
Yeah.
the least important.
There you go.
But and Brooks coming out afterwards and saying like, basically like, I had a great time at the Masters and I can't wait for the next major. Like, I'm interested to see how, when the competition is there between Liv and PGA at these major championships, how that kind of progresses and where those conversations go, and if this kind of like the contention between the two dissipates slightly as these guys are all involved in top 10 finishes in the majors.
Yeah.
I mean, Brooks wasn't playing other tournaments anyway before he joined Liv.
The Liv thing is so bizarre. I was doing a deeper dive. It's team golf. So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
And
54,
are these
right? Rounds of 54 instead of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are these guys like, are the teams racially motivated? There's like a team of just like Neiman and what's Piera? Like what's the other guys? Mito Piera.
Mito
yeah,
Pereira.
Yeah, Mito Pereira. He's they're from the same nationality. There's a team of just all Asian dudes. There's a team. It was so. I was looking at this and like a team of just white guys. It's like, did the Liv guys just like, did the company just like racially make these teams?
I mean,
Who knows?
Maybe these guys want to be able.
Or maybe
to
they want to be with their
communicate
countrymen.
better.
Yeah.
that too.
Could be that too. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they were formed. I was just throwing it. I was just like looking on the website. I'm like, this is kind of odd. It's kind of an interesting observation I had.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely something like if you had the stream of the Masters on, like when Brooks was making shots and when Phil was making shots, like less people were cheering for them than they were for Jon Rahm, for sure.
Oh yeah.
And I wonder, like, I wonder if that changes. I wonder if even more animosity comes up for these Liv guys, but we'll see. I just think it's an interesting narrative, and I also think that a lot of people going into the tournament were like, Liv is going to suck. They're going to have a really shitty tournament, and that just wasn't the case. They came out and they performed, and that's why a lot of those guys were top 10 golfers in the world to begin with. So.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, DJ's won, Reed's won, so
Right.
they've all been there. All right, speaking of winning, a lot of good games tonight. Speaking of fighting as well, the Timberwolves in the mix against the Los Angeles Lakers, Miami Heat, Atlanta Hawks. Which team has the most on the line of these four teams?
The most on the line out of
Yeah,
the four
like to
playing
win
teams.
this
Well, I mean, obviously the Lakers. Like, time is running out on LeBron's career in the LeBron AD pairing. They went out and made a bunch of moves during the season to revamp their team. Honestly, one of the biggest 180s that you've seen probably in a roster shakeup mid-season ever. And, if they can't get this done, if they choke, then this is a huge collapse.
Mm-hmm.
I do think I agree that they have the most pressure on them. I don't think it's a collapse if they don't. Now, if they don't make the 7 or 8 seed, yes.
That's what I'm saying. If they double dip, get lose.
I think
bounced.
in the broader context of the playoffs, they actually are in a really nice position because I don't think that there's a ton of pressure on them. I think they're a team that can win and a team that people believe can win. But
I think the question was most on the line, right?
yeah.
Most
And with the LeBron factor, I agree because of where he is. They do.
You don't think, in your sense, that Nick with.
I have it close too, though. Honestly.
Okay, and I just want to throw the Heat. I'll throw like the Heat. Just
Okay.
just throw on these reasoning.
Yeah.
Because you're saying like, okay, like there's not a lot of time left in the LeBron era with Los Angeles. 100% correct. How much time left in the Jimmy Butler era in Miami? Because if they don't get this done right now, like
I don't necessarily
did they already
know
hit
that.
their peak?
Well, look, I don't necessarily know that the Jimmy Butler era is the era that is the one that gets it done for Miami. Because I think they did hit their peak with him when they got to the finals. And, you know, they surprised a lot of people when they were there. And they ultimately got beat by LeBron's team, right?
Yeah.
In the bubble.
The Mickey Mouse one.
Yep, the Mickey Mouse one.
I thought that was
Less of a Mickey Mouse. than
way
Dodgers.
less of a Mickey
Well,
Mouse. More
It's also just the Mickey Mouse because
Is
of
it
where
in
they were.
Orlando?
yeah,
Right.
Because of where it was took place.
Yeah.
Happiest place on earth. But I think that they have such a young core still, and that they can move things around where they can go out and get someone. And it's also a desirable destination to play. I mean, not that Los Angeles isn't, but I think that they, and especially with Spoelstra too, I mean, just
Sure.
a better run organization through and through in the last few years. I think that their pressure isn't as immense as the Lakers is.
Okay. So you're number 2. That means I think would be Atlanta.
It is Atlanta, and it's also partially because already on the rumors yesterday, before they even play their play-in game, that they're willing to shop Trae Young, and that Trae Young is fine with it, and that's not a great thing to come out before you play in a play-in game that potentially gets you into the playoffs after you just traded a lot for DeJounte Murray.
It's like when they're like, yeah, Nick Nurse might leave next year. It's like, you also have a game to play.
Yeah. But it's even different because the Raptors don't have Trae Young, who a lot of people think is a top 20, some people think top 15 basketball player on the planet. Like,
It's kind of one of the things that drives me crazy
25.
about the NBA is that guys check out really, really early sometimes. Like, I feel like you don't see that happening in football. Like, you don't really even see that happening in baseball. Like, they wait till, like, the dust has been settled, but we hear this all the time.
yeah.
And, like, rumors are always swirling, no matter what time of the year it is.
People are always fishing for it. It's what's hot. To me, honestly, this is one of Trae Young's worst seasons. And they brought in Murray, who's a fine basketball player. He may not be a top 25 basketball player, but he's probably top 40 basketball player in the NBA right now. They bring him in. They're just kind of an overrated franchise, to be honest. I know they had some really nice years with like Millsap, Horford, Corver Teague, and DeMar Carroll, that whole iteration. But by and large,
I mean, all in all, just run of franchise, they've been pretty terrible.
pretty terrible. They're kind of like, they don't draft well. Yes, Trae Young in a vacuum was a really nice pick, but if you look at who they could have had, bad move. The Okongwu thing is not a great pick considering you have Capella, and you also have Capella and John Collins, who you pitter-pattered hanging on to for so long. Their value is completely depreciated. DeAndre Hunter hasn't panned out. Jalen Johnson hasn't panned out. I like A.J. Griffin. We'll see what happens there. The Cam Reddish thing was a flop. They don't draft well. They're kind of a mess of an organization. They go through head coach after head coach. It's kind of a joke.
When it comes down to drafting and guys going to specific organizations, I know that we see this a lot in football where, like, if you get drafted by the wrong franchise, then they can deter your career, for your development or whatever kind of player you are, depends on where you land. But in the NBA, is that as prominent? Like, if you land somewhere in a bad situation, like, is that going to screw up your career?
It can. It definitely can.
It can.
But
yeah.
it shouldn't in Atlanta.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
it's a great city. That city they love their sports teams. They have a lot of while they've been around for a long time, they have not been a great franchise, but they have had some really pivotal players. Dominique Wilkins, Maravich played for them. Doc, that's who Doc played for. Like, they've had those runs with Bud were substantial, and I think like it really set up like where the franchise is right now. And then you draft a guy who's supposed to be your cornerstone in Trae Young, and they start to build around him. And I actually think like for the last 2 years, and the reason why I think there's so much riding on them right now in this play-in series is that like there's a lot of pressure on them, and rightly so, because we were talking about them for 2 years coming into the season. I mean, as much as we love our guy Miles Sheff, like you are taking a more objective look at it. He's a diehard fan. You liked them a lot both seasons in a row. Maybe a little bit less coming into this season, but 2 seasons ago,
Sure.
you were high on them being a top 6 seed and being a potential contender.
I like
Coming off that Eastern Conference Finals run that Trae had. And I think like we get in the trap of like, because I think the Mavs were kind of in the same boat where it's like both those teams, they made those runs a little too early.
Yes, that's a great point.
And impressive for both of those individual players' resumes, but those teams were not ready for those runs. And so I don't think we should be that surprised, but it's not like they've been drafting that terribly. Like, I like DeAndre Hunter. I think he can find either a starting role or a role like rotational 3-and-D guy off the bench for a team. He's dealt with injuries, which has held him back a little bit. John Collins was not worth the max contract they gave him. Bad signing, but Clint Capella is a big man that any roster would be lucky to have.
Yeah, but you have him and Okongwu. You kind of just occupy the same.
Sure,
space
and now you can get rid of Capella, and because you've got Okongwu, who's your young guy there. Like Bogdanovich is a good player. It's not that they don't have guys on their roster.
He's been hurt. He played less than 60 games this year.
Sure, some of it's just unluckiness, but I also like the AJ Griffin pick. Like, I think he's been pretty good for them this season. Like,
I liked a lot of their picks coming in.
Yeah.
And they're going to your point, Nick. Maybe they just can't develop talent well and put talent in a place where they could all succeed congruently. Like go to Coach Bud. Like he did a masterful job, and yeah, he has Giannis now. But even with Giannis in and out of the lineup, he still has his players playing in sync, and Drew Holiday having his best season. Brooke Lopez at God knows what age having his best season.
Yeah.
Right? So
Well,
it
and
really, I guess in some capacity, it matters who they put around and have your – not as much as football because there's so many variables in football. Right. There's a whole facet of the game. If you're the quarterback and you pick somewhere, you can't control special teams and defense. You can't. You know,
Can't control the playbook.
Can't control the playbook.
Can't control who your weapons are.
Not necessarily if you're a young guy, correct?
Right.
So, yes, there's a lot of variables that you can't really
But, I mean, if you're a
control.
basketball player, like, the ball's in your hands, you control where you shoot and when you shoot.
Right.
One of 5 dudes,
And-
especially if you're a high-usage guy.
And I also just think that, like, the margins are so razor thin in the NBA for, like, how we talk about and how we critique coaches, players, GMs, ownership. Because even, like, a guy like Bud, he is praised, and he has been, like, since they've won that title. But before they did, people were like, I don't know if Bud's the right guy. Like, he can't get past that hump in the playoffs. I mean, we even talk about guys like Doc Rivers, who has won. We're like, well, he's kind of cursed. Like, couldn't get the Clippers there. Like, now he can't get the 76ers there. Like, those are good coaches. They both won titles. A guy like Ty Lue, even after the Cavs title, we were like, what is he? Is he a good coach? For a long time, you and I were like, nah, he kind of sucks. And then he goes and he makes runs, right, with these Clippers teams, and clearly he's a good coach. So I just bring that up to say, like, we're highly critical of people, us, big media, like everyone. And a lot of times it's not warranted. Sometimes it is. And I think there's all these factors that you have to, like, pay attention to, especially with this Hawks team. But ultimately, I think it comes down to the consistency of this team in the last 5 years has been Trae Young. And now the fact that he potentially could be going elsewhere, and a lot of murmurs this season about him getting traded, a lot of murmurs this season about guys not liking playing with him, which is huge, obviously. The writing's on the wall a little bit. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
His effective field goal percentage, which is your field goal percentage, for those who don't know, that takes into account threes being more valuable than twos.
Yeah.
Factor that in. Last year, it was 54%. For a guy who shoots the 3 ball, pretty good.
That's really good.
It's really good.
For a guard.
For a guard.
Yeah.
This year, 48%. Like, his three-point percentage was under 34% this year. He had arguably his worst year in a
And he's a
couple years.
high-volume three-point shooter. So
High volume
right.
player. Yeah. I going back to that, I thought Nate McMillan was a fine coach. I thought he did a good job when he filled in there. And the fact he had no one has been able to get a grab. They brought in Quinn Snyder's coming in.
I mean, I have no
They
doubt
won
that
10 and 11 with this team.
I have no doubt that with a full year that Quinn Snyder will make this team better than it was this year. But I just don't know if we're going to be looking at the same roster come next year.
I don't anticipate.
The Jimmy Butler thing, just to circle back to that
Please.
really quickly. That guy's been on 3 different teams already. So, like, I know 4 Bulls, T-Wolves, Sixers, Heat. So for him to leave, I trust.
T-Wolves thing. Is that what you forgot?
Yeah,
Such a ridiculous
yeah.
thing.
But for him to leave, they still have Riley, they still have Spo, they still have Bam. I know Jimmy Butler is. They still have Harrow. I know Jimmy Butler is really, like, tough to replace. But I trust that organization and being able to put something together to retool and not fall too far behind. And that's why I'm not as worried about them. So I would rank those teams that you mentioned: Lakers, then Hawks, then Timberwolves, then Heat, and we don't even need to talk about the Timberwolves. But
There's some pressure with the Gobert disaster.
Yeah, I don't even know
Ant-Man.
where to start with them. Is my point because
Are they the biggest joke? Who's the biggest joke of a franchise in the NBA? Give me your top three big.
It's still the Hornets.
So Hornets are number one biggest joke. You want to throw anybody in there?
I mean, I feel like the Timberwolves is just what they've been doing as of lately, but also the Rudy Gobert trade at the beginning of the season is just an absolute joke.
Yeah, every draft pick they make,
Except
Edwards,
Anthony Edwards.
Edwards is not a bad draft pick.
Yeah, not a bad draft pick. Just the first overall pick. Kind of like dealer's choice.
Right.
They have messed up a bevy of times. The Jimmy Butler saga disaster. Like their franchise kind of stinks. I would say the biggest jokes in the NBA. Hornets. I would say number 2, close in my opinion, is the Timberwolves. And I would say probably the third biggest joke, and I hate to say this, in the NBA is the Washington Wizards.
Yeah.
Because what are they doing?
I don't know.
What's going like?
I do not know.
All right, what wing can we draft?
Between the 8 and 12 spot.
What are we like?
Also, just do what every other. Just tank. Just do it. I know you can't say it. I know you have to go out there and compete, and I know KP had a good year. I know Kuzma had a good year, but just lose 8 more games.
but not good enough for not good enough. Where
I know, but good enough to not give them a top 3 pick.
So bad.
They're gonna pick Grady Dick with the 8th pick.
They have to.
They got to take another
They
wing.
have to take a wing, dude. If you're the Wizards, and you're
Kispert's our guy, but
love Kispert, but they have Denny, Rui, Johnny. I know Johnny Davis cigar, but we'll lump him in there. You got to take a wing if you're picking in that 8th or 12th spot. All right, let's go to some football. Draft's coming up, boys. It is couple weeks away. The Thurs have the first pick. We know that. Texans want a quarterback. Titans are rumored to be wanting to move up. The Colts. I've consistently been throwing out the Commanders. The Raiders are in the mix. And I'm sure there's other teams that I'm not thinking of off the top of the dome ski that can go and get a quarterback. Where are they going? Stroud, Young, Richardson, Levis, Hendon Hooker. Where are those 5 quarterbacks going? You don't have to give me the exact pick, but just give me a team that you think they'll end up at.
I mean, I really don't know what to do with Levis and Hooker, to be honest.
Okay.
Well, I think Hooker's the guy that gets taken at the back end of the first or second early.
Slotting in
It's
as a
really-
backup somewhere.
So really anyone can. Yeah, I mean, I would say
I think he's got a shot.
I would say
I like him.
backup as
like him too.
a guy to maybe a veteran quarterback that's almost on the way out. I think the Raiders would be maybe an interesting one where you see how long Jimmy G can handle, being a Raiders quarterback, and then if Hendon Hooker's your guy, then that's the guy who takes over.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll go backwards. I'll say Hendon Hooker to the Raiders
Okay.
because they're picking at 30, I believe. No.
Picking at 7.
Oh, I saw a mock draft for
So
someone.
I'm mocked
traded.
over some move back in.
Yeah.
Okay, so Hooker to the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
Levis.
Levis, I think he's gonna go earlier, but I don't know why he should go earlier. Honestly, I'd say Tennessee.
Okay.
Keep him close to Kentucky.
Okay.
I like that.
I'm with
That's
that.
fun.
He's a very Tennessee quarterback.
Yep.
That's fun.
And then I like Richardson to the Colts. I really think he should go number 1 overall, but I like him to the Colts. And then Bryce Young to the Texans and Stroud to the Panthers.
Okay. Toss.
Bryce Young to the Texans and Stroud to the Panthers. I think that
Josh McCown, by the way, who's on the Panthers coaching staff, when he saw Stroud at his pro day, he was like, "We'll have to shoot some hoops when you're out in Carolina."
is that which McCown is the one that was flying back to coach high school football on Fridays, and then that's Josh. Okay,
Yeah.
That's such a cool story. I like your Hooker to the Raiders. I'm gonna table Hooker and move on to the other guys, and then I'll kind of think about that one for a little bit.
Fine.
I think that the Carolina Panthers are going to take the guy that's off the charts in every category. I think they're going to go for him. I think they're going to go for Richardson.
Wow.
See, I like the number 1 pick. So if they're sitting at number 1, then yeah, I don't mind that.
I'm just thinking about Cam in that city and how electric he could be. And I don't think they need to rush anything right now. I know that like that division was super tight, and I know they have a young core on defense, but I don't necessarily know if I would make that pick, but that's what I'm throwing out there.
That's cool.
And then Stroud to the Texans, and then Bryce to the Colts. And then I actually like then Levis falling to a team. I'm gonna throw out the Vikings because I think that Kirk we might get to a point here where JJ and Kirk are gone, and I think they need to kind of start planning for the future here a little bit too. And I think that Levis,
also a Viking-looking quarterback.
he does look like a Viking
The
kind of.
Jets still don't have a quarterback, by the way.
That is true. The Jets are quarterbackless as it stands.
That's
right
not true. Zach Wilson is still on the roster.
He still
Yeah.
is, but dude.
Mike White is still on the roster.
No, is he? I thought he left.
Is he gone?
Might be in Miami right now.
Miami? I don't. You know what? Josh, you go and I really don't know about Hendon. Honestly, where
And it's tough. It's a curveball I threw in there. I'll admit.
Mike
Okay.
White is in Miami and writing season 3 of White Lotus.
which is going to be set in
Thailand.
Thailand.
Wow, that's exhilarating.
Yeah. Do we know which of the characters is continuing on?
I don't know if any of them are.
Really? I
I've
thought
only
someone
seen the
was. I
last
hope
episode.
someone
I
is.
gotta watch it. I've only
Who,
seen the last
if you had to
episode.
pick one
Um,
to continue on, what any season too?
I don't need Ethan.
No, boring.
And if Ethan's not there, neither is Harper because they ended season 2 on a good note.
Right.
I'm down for Cameron to be there.
Yeah, I am too.
Super down for him to be there.
In Thailand, messing with some ladyboys.
Is Cameron the guy that was like
Theo James, the British actor, like big, kind of muscular, broy
Okay.
dude.
Yeah, handsome guy.
Handsome guy. I think Portia could work. I think if she picks up some new gig where she's traveling to Thailand, but
I
she,
didn't love her character.
but she's so young
the girl
that
that was
she could
kidnapped at the end?
that she could grow into something else. Maybe she's like 4 years older now, and she's like a completely different vibe
Yeah.
than she was before. I don't need it. Yeah, none of the Italian family. I don't need Imperioli or.
I'd like to see the son from season 1.
Oh yeah, like he and
And his
the
dad.
Samoan row crew like row all the way from
Yeah.
Hawaii to Thailand.
That'd be hilarious.
That would be epic.
And his
Season 1
dad
took place in Hawaii.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
and his dad.
you not seen it?
Comes find him.
I've only seen the last episode of season 2.
I thought you had seen season 1.
No, I'd only seen the last.
That's a botch out of you.
What?
It's a botch out of you.
I gotta watch it.
You're usually good at watching.
You should watch
TV.
it.
No, I'm not.
I mean, you're good at watching the good ones, like
Yes.
the important ones.
I know.
This is important.
I know. All right, I'll
Haven't you hit? And you've hit every other
I'll strive-
HBO
Yeah.
Sunday night of recent. You did Last of Us.
Yep.
You did
Succession.
Succession. You did House of Dragon.
Nope.
Okay.
You never did House of Dragon?
I know yeah. No, I didn't. I didn't have time. It was just
Honestly,
like, not on my
no, but
schedule.
honestly, I think that White Lotus is a bigger. I'm more surprised that you haven't seen season 2 and season 1 of White Lotus than you haven't seen House of Dragon.
I love the finale. I'm gonna watch White Lotus. I want to.
Watching
House
backwards.
of Dragons, like,
It's good.
I don't know, dude. Game of Thrones just really disappointed me. Left a sour taste in my mouth. Okay.
I rewatched season 8's not as bad as we remember it being.
Okay. Well, maybe
Yeah,
not.
I agree.
I'm sure it's not as bad
I
as I
agree with
remember
you.
it. I'll rewatch that too. But it was just in the time. Y'all remember how we felt at that time. It was bad.
But we were also like
Bran Stark thing sucks.
when you're in
That was the
college
worst
and
act-
you can get like the emotional rallying from all your boys being like, no, it sucks, and y'all are all on the same page. It
weren't
makes
in
it feel
school.
10 times more important.
we were all together out
It's true,
here.
but it's the
Still,
same
same
thing. It's the
thing.
same
Freshman
vibe.
year of LA.
Same thing. Yeah.
It was freshman year of LA. Okay. Bryce Young to the Panthers. CJ Stroud to the Texans. Titans trade up. They don't take Will Levis. They take Anthony Richardson at 3. The Colts are left with Will Levis at 4.
And what is Waystar Royko gonna do in the draft?
Who's that?
Well, they're buying the rights to. They're buying out
To Lucas Madsen?
They're buying out Amazon. They're
Okay.
going to own Thursday nights.
Okay.
Matson and the Gojo deal went through, and what they're going to do is take over Sunday night, Monday night, and Thursday night, and they're just taking over every single broadcast.
Okay.
Great. So that's good for the news of what we played in broadcast.
I was more in the line of like who's the successor, but
Oh, of like
like yeah.
okay, yeah. Okay, I don't mind either of that.
So we all had a different guy going to the Panthers?
We did. It's exciting. Here's the thing about Hooker. Didn't really turn the ball over in school. Yeah, his first read may have been like Jalen Hyatt, always open, but he still hit him. To me, he's a really competent winning quarterback, and I know he's coming off an injury, but I think a team's going to get lucky. I actually wouldn't be surprised.
To meet him. We got to meet him.
Amazing. Dude.
Great guy.
Great guy.
Really good guy.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody moves up to the 16th spot, the Commanders move back, the Commanders take him in the early 20s.
Which is kind of where I had Levis falling.
I wouldn't be surprised if someone took Hooker over Levis.
Yeah, I mean, especially a team that already has a guy for this season, where they're okay with waiting a season for him to get fully healthy and learn the playbook and kind of be an NFL player. Look, I think at any position, of course, you want a guy that has high character, but most importantly at the quarterback position, he's got to be able to lead men. He's got to be able to be intelligent and communicate well with others and be coachable and just be a leader in general.
Yeah.
And when we met Hendon, his personality shined.
Yeah.
He was funny, he was charismatic.
Well, and he's already
smart,
He's already 24, so he's
425, yeah.
coming in
a little more mature.
mature, yeah.
He helped bring stability to a really important college football program.
Yep.
Yeah, that since Peyton has not had a lot of stability.
Dobbs, but
Dobbs was good.
He's better than
but
Dobbs.
but has been
Yeah.
but has been more so known for their skill position players coming out since Peyton.
one-off dudes.
Yeah.
Not like a real, hey, this is a guy. If he hadn't gotten hurt, I think we'd be talking about him being the 4th quarterback taken. I think we'd talk about him being a top 5 pick. I think, quite frankly, I think the Seahawks are also. I don't think they'll do it. So I think they'll be enticed.
Well, he
by
might have won the Heisman.
He would have had a shot.
Realistically,
He
like
would have had
the way that the momentum was shaking out after they beat Alabama. We recall like where the talks were at that point. He was
in the mix.
He was for sure in the mix.
The Georgia loss was detrimental to his Heisman hopes. I felt, but I think he stayed healthy. Had he not lost to South Carolina somehow, I think he could have pushed Duggan or Stetson Bennett out. Anyway, I think he could be a really nice quarterback, and I think the Seahawks.
Stetson Bennett get drafted at all? You think? He's had a lot of off-the-field issues this offseason.
I think
he'll go like 6th round, 6th round.
Oh, we just saw before we hopped on, the Falcons made a move for
Jeff
Okudah.
5th
Great.
round pick.
To the Falcons.
I like it for them.
He was the number 3 overall pick. What, 3 years ago?
I mean,
Yeah.
Josh, you were huge on Jeff. Obviously, you're a big Buckeye guy. So
He was a blanket, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And again, like his coverage skills are fantastic. Well, I thought coming out were fantastic. It's not like he's been playing.
Snuggie status. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's
Weighted blanket.
Yeah, I think it's not like he's not been playing. He got hurt his first 2 years.
Right.
Last year was his first full, really healthy year. He played 15 games, 7 pass deflections, a pick. I would have loved to see the Lions give him one more shot. Maybe they felt that if he was good, they would have had to pay him, and they couldn't get rid of him for nothing. And figured they'd just cut their losses for a 5th round pick and make it someone else's problem.
Was it a leg injury?
His Achilles, I believe.
Yeah. Lower half's tough. I feel like early on in careers for linebackers, safeties, DBs, when they lose that, you can't have any reduced mobility in the modern NFL where guys are they're so athletic.
Yeah, I just think a 5th is really slim for a guy that was a 3rd overall pick a couple years
But
ago.
what have we been asking the Falcons to do for the last 5 years, right?
Go get some help on D.
Go get defensive help, and I like that for them without giving up too much draft capital.
And he'll be the number 2 at best. You give AJ
Terrell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I like it a lot.
That was a good move for the shout out to their families. Okay. Last thing I want to touch on today. Are you guys how shocked on a scale of 1 to 10, no pun intended, are you that the Tampa Bay Rays are 10-0 to start the year?
Not that shocked.
Okay.
Just because of who they've played.
Love that.
Right?
Strength of schedule has not been great.
Athletics,
Joke.
Nationals,
Joke.
and Tigers.
Joke.
I mean, those are all teams that we all have finishing in probably the 3 worst teams in baseball.
Yeah.
So it's impressive because their run differential has been super high. I think it's like top 5 opening run differential since baseball started, and the other 4 teams are from the 1800s. So
Yeah.
like this is the best start in
Pre-Taft era.
in like the
William Howard.
Yeah.
pre automobile era.
Yeah. They
Pre-Model T.
This is when there was like, oh, we have planes and we could fly.
Wait, I think who the 4th team in that mix of just like the worst teams in the league were the Pirates, right? Were the Pirates, and they are actually like, but they started okay in their first 10, but O'Neal Cruz just
they just lost O'Neal Cruz
for what 4 or 5 months.
About
But
4
that
months.
was my point on the Pirates. I thought they were going to be a lot. That was one of the things we went back and forth on. And this is very early, so I'm not going to toot the horn right now. But I thought they were going to be better than people. First of all, they hung on to Brian Reynolds. Great move by them.
I mean, he's going to get dealt. He's going to get dealt. The deadline.
They could deal Bednar.
You don't think they're dealing Brian Reynolds? He
I don't
requested
know.
a trade in spring. It's not a great move by them.
I think hanging on to him was a good move. He's going to drive up his value.
Okay. I mean, they want like the same return that Juan Soto got from the Nationals for the Padres.
And they weren't going to get that.
They weren't going to get that. I still don't think they're going to get that. Brian Reynolds is older.
How old is he?
27, 28. He's 28 years old.
They're trying to extend him.
Yeah, so that's the other thing too, right? They want Soto return, but they don't want to pay him Soto money,
Yeah.
right?
You can't. You can't.
If they can extend him, I mean, he wants, upwards of 250, 300 mil.
He's a 160 guy, 180 guy. Just it's unfortunate. He's amazing, but like he just the way he
What can they get for him?
a lot.
They can get a lot.
They get a lot.
They can probably get like a team's first 2 prospects.
I just don't know who takes him though.
Anybody.
They only have 4
Dodgers
in
can
the
do
top
it.
100,
It's true.
which
Yeah, I was looking.
I
was
did
looking at
it.
that
I did
earlier.
a kind of deep dive the other day just to see in the top 100, which obviously there's so many other players outside of that, and this top 100 changes all the time, and guys come up and whatever. But like for them to be as bad as they are and to only have 4, I mean, there's plenty of teams that have 6, 7 that are much better than them already. And
I think that you can look at anyone in the AL East. You can look at anyone in the NL West.
Okay.
And I would even throw the AL West in there too. I think you got to look at those competitive divisions where like contender needs an X factor to push them over the edge in a competitive division, right?
He's
So,
what's
the
his position?
Jers.
Yeah,
center fielder.
yeah, we would trade for him in a heartbeat.
Yep.
Well, our outfield is thin,
Yeah,
It's
I
not
was
great.
Complaining about Adolis Garcia yesterday.
and then he hit a grand slam.
I know it's awesome.
Yeah,
But yeah.
all 3 of the guys that you have on the Rangers kind of raked yesterday.
Yeah, Seager. Seager's
Seager
kind
had
of
a home
he's
run.
good. Seager's good.
And Lowe's a
He's
good player, man.
He's a good player. He's got to pick it up. But the the Sox are 5-5. Nick, you guys are 6-5. The Jers are 6-4. Look, that's just.
No, we need we could definitely be viable candidates there. We desperately need outfield depth and help.
Oh yeah,
Especially because I think we just put Garver on the IL, which just takes away another guy that can DH and rotate in with Jonah Heim. So
Yeah, I think.
Grossman was like our 5th best hitter right now. Like,
And you guys-
that's tough.
Yeah, what was y'all's here while we're just meandering around?
We've got good prospects though. Bubba Thompson was a guy who's now been he's starting for us this year. He's a young outfielder.
Bubba.
He's played pretty well.
That's a good name.
It's a great.
But they're going
baseball
to
name.
want pitching in return because they have none. They're all. If you look at all their top guys in the top 100, they're all catchers, second base.
Jack Leiter.
I don't know if you can do that.
Rocker.
What do you mean? Leiter for Reynolds?
I don't think we're gonna get we're not gonna give him up.
He's untouchable. You think?
I think he's probably the only guy that is.
I mean, I thought that Mackenzie Gore and C.J. Abrams and all those guys were untouchable, but
Yeah.
Again, not to.
I know it's Juan Soto, but they gave up all of them. I'm talking about one of them. I'm talking about one guy.
I'm saying
I would just.
they have that kid Owen White, who's actually ranked ahead of Leiter.
I would
Kumar
just
Rocker.
think. I would just Rocker. I think is because he's a little bit further, not as far along as Leiter is. I mean, the expectation is that Leiter will probably be in the rotation next season, and eventually, like even with DeGrom, like taking over that spot by the time he gets to year 3 or 4 in the bigs. So like we want him to be our guy. But you're right, Gore got chipped, so anything can happen.
I mean, Leiter's also not even a top 10 prospect in baseball.
Right.
He's not even a top 20 prospect in baseball.
No, he's
Our starting third baseman is though.
he's
pretty darn good.
dropped a little bit. I will say this: Mackenzie Gore
Starting out nice. Starting out really nice.
started out really nice.
Yep.
2 really strong outings. Gowan, your Cy Young pick was great last night. by
Yeah,
the
but he
way.
started off bad. Shaky.
shaky,
But he's good
He's
yesterday.
dominant. He dominated that Brew Crew team who started off. That's probably the only thing we've been missed. Is like thinking
Even Yelich is at home run.
yeah. Shocker, surprise. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. That's it. Daily Stripe. Love you guys. Hit your free throws because they're free.